Hi, welcome to the show. My name is Jesse Goldberg, and my guest today is Beth Sass, who is a songwriter, a singer, a teacher of voice and of piano and kind of motivational music. You really get into it all the time.
I do.
Right.
I think it's interesting to get to know the person.
Right.
I think also...
We're going to talk about your teaching later, but start first. I know you're from Boston.
I'm from Boston.
We did that in the rehearsal, right? You're from Boston, and then you got a piano when you were 5 years old.
I grew up with a grand piano
that
my family adopted because my mother did not play the piano. Her two brothers did, and my grandparents decided that the easiest, most diplomatic thing to do was to give it to my mother since she didn't play. So nobody touched it in my small little household. So I climbed up on the piano bench when I was about 4 or 5 and made sense out of it. A few little books that had little stickers that you would put on the keys, and then it made sense to me. And I was good at it, and I guess I went through lots and lots of books and lots of teachers when I was little. And I have a huge stack of music books that to this day I use with my students, and it's adorable. They're in black and white because it was a long time ago. They have little, good job check marks from my various teachers, and
I still have those too.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's sometimes you should send them along with your granddaughter's piano lesson to your teacher and ask them if they could use them. You'd be surprised. We use a lot of stuff like that.
They don't have notes anymore, do they? I was just kidding. Well, anyway, never mind. So then you grew up and you became a musician.
Yes, yes.
How did that happen? What was the first time you played professionally?
That's a good question.
You went to Berklee School of Music, right?
I did, but long before that, I remember, well, in my town was a K through 8. So 7th and 8th grade, you kind of were the big shots in your school. And I remember already in 7th and 8th grade having songwriting partners. I remember having friends that I met, and they would already been writing songs, and I had already been playing. And so I started writing in 6th, 7th, or 8th grade. I wrote, and I had some college kids were living with friends of mine. They were like college kids that were boarding, that went to Emerson back in Boston. And the college kids took over my musical life even in 7th and 8th grade, and I made records and recorded, really like right off the bat. By high school, I had another partner or two, one of whom we went on to perform all through our high school. And
is this one?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You made a record here?
We made a record.
Right, we're going to show this record. This is your first record, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And Silly Hester was the name of your...
We were called Silly Hester.
Silly Hester.
And there were two of us.
Live at Pooh's Pub, and this was you.
Yeah, Pooh's Pub was
This is Beth, and I'm assuming the other person's name was Nancy on the other side.
Yes, yes.
Beth and Nancy.
Yes.
Okay, and then you had a record that looks like it was keep it on there. Looks like it's a small record, but it's played at 33, not 45, and it looks like an EP because it's
4 songs.
4 songs, right.
And I'm excited to say
That's cool.
that it was recorded live at a jazz club that had a cabaret one night a week, like a sort of a variety show. And my friend Nancy and I were like the staple of that variety show. And
you were playing jazz back then?
No, not at all. Just that it was in a place.
What kind of music is this?
This is sort of Carole King.
Okay.
Carole King and the Carole King Tapestry album combined with, let's say, Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, because we had very strong harmonies. And the interesting thing is that people from Robin Lane and the Chartbusters band performed live with us on this album.
Really?
Yes, it's crazy. We had similar management. There was a lot going on.
You had management
We
back
had
then?
management.
In high school?
I had management. I think we recorded this summer after we graduated high school. But yes, we had management. We had a sound company that sponsored us in Boston. And we toured.
They have managers in Boston?
Anyway, we have a lot of, I'm going to say that one of the weirdest things about your musical history is that when you come to a place like Nashville, things like that you did when you were 16, 17, 18, and 19, they haunt you. Because I've run into people here from that time in my life that are doing, you know, crazy things now, and we've been able to trace our roots back to that time. It was very Boston, Cambridge, you know, it was very supportive in those days of singer-songwriter. It was ripe. It was a good time.
And then what happened? You went to Berkeley School?
Yeah.
Is that where you went to college?
I went to Smith College in Amherst, Northampton, for a year, and realized pretty quickly that I needed to be at Berkeley College of Music, so I transferred. And
what were you, a piano player? Or how'd you get in? Was a singer, a piano? Don't you have to have a major or something?
That's a good question. At the time, I'm going to say that I went in as a piano player. I vaguely remember that. But I switched at some point to a voice major. And more interestingly even than that, my major was classical composition, because they either had jazz or classical composition. The pop department, you know, what we think of as commercial music now, was tiny. There was a few of us. We either did pop songwriting, and there was a handful of us, or we did like jingles and commercials. So there was no real like commercial music department. There was the beginning of a songwriting department, the beginning of a film scoring department, and the beginning of a recording department. Those all went on, obviously, to be huge. So interestingly enough, from Berkeley, once I got there, I was, you know, in a tiny, beloved, small, little, you know, groundbreaking set of people. And it was from there that I got my first job as a songwriter here in Nashville, because they sent music that I wrote there straight down here to Nashville, and I became a writer here while I was still a student.
I mean, a staff job?
It was a staff job in the sense that they took almost my whole catalog, but it was a series of single song contracts, because I was, but I lived.
You had a place to put your music where somebody would pitch it.
Yeah, they at the time, that was Tanya Tucker and Louise Mandrell, and they were looking for songwriters that were similar ages and similar stuff, and it was back in the quote-unquote country crossover. And since I was, you know, Joe Carole King, sort of, you know,
you fit in.
I fit in right. Because of what they were doing.
When did you move here? You know, you've been back and forth.
Oh,
right?
It took 3 moves to move here. I moved here during that time. I left Berkeley and moved in the middle of all of that. And I was so young that I didn't even have a driver's license, and there weren't enough ways of getting around. So I remember taking a cab all the way from what is now Bellevue all the way to, it was Tree Publishing at the time that I worked with. But yeah, I didn't last very long. I wasn't ready to be here, even though I was musically ready. I wasn't ready to tackle the music business. You know, Berkeley spends a lot of time now on preparing, and it's not. They're like more sophisticated than anybody I've ever seen. By the time they get here, I was the opposite.
You went back and forth to Boston.
I went back and stayed. I went back after a little while, finished school, finished everything. Did a huge, long chapter of very intense piano bars in colleges as a singer-songwriter.
What kind of stuff did you play at piano bars?
At the time, you could play, you know, the Carpenters and Carole King and James Taylor.
Okay, I played in piano bars too for like 9 years.
Did you play piano?
Yeah.
I love piano.
So you see that piano on that thing right there?
Piano bars are like, they're wonderful.
Did you know the lyrics, or did you have lyric cheat sheets?
Oh, of course I had lyric sheets. But
lyric sheets with the chords on top or something
yes,
like that?
and I still have a big box of them because
me too.
Yeah, but it was wonderful to be this close to someone and them say, you know, play the Rose. That was a big one. That was the thing. I loved piano bars. I mean, I always made...
Did you play grand piano, or did you bring your own keyboard?
That's a really interesting question. Oh, what a great question. All right. Generally, I have so many ways that I did piano bars. It's unbelievable. One was the normal way. They had a grand piano,
right,
and everybody got progressively drunker and drunker as the night went on, and they were this far away from me, and I would kind of like ease my way out of the scene as they stayed there with their, martinis all night with a big tip jar. And that was intimate and fun. I did that in a bunch of interesting restaurants in Boston.
Well, one aside, I was always looking for a good tip jar, because every time I go to like a garage sale or something, I say, that would make a good
vase.
tip jar.
Well, you know what? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, keep going.
No, this is such an interesting thing. What happened at piano bars? I can't even. It's just amazing. That was one normal version. Another version of a piano bar. At one point, I did a double piano bar, like side to side, like spoon-shaped white grand pianos at a hotel in Boston with another singer-songwriter piano bar guy. And by the way, I always did a lot of my own music. I have an archival SoundCloud page where friends from back in the day sent me all these live cassettes we recorded, and I made them all digital. And so I actually have full audio of original sets done at these piano bars because I made sure that I fed them my own music for every few, Send in the Clowns, I would do some of my own. So there
you probably did all the same songs I did.
I'm sure. The female version. But where were you?
I started in Aspen, Colorado.
Okay.
And then I moved to other places.
So, yeah, it's always vacation-y spots and stuff, right? So there was the normal piano bar, and then there was the double piano bar, and then simultaneously, not sort of I'm not really good with chronology and everything, but some place inserted in this, when I would tour colleges and do my own thing completely as a singer-songwriter artist, I toured with my own piano. It was called an apartment piano. Did you ever know what those were? It's
no.
a 64-note spinet. So
how'd you carry it?
It was on wheels, and it would fit on its back in a van, and I had a road manager.
Didn't you get a Fender Rhodes or one of those things?
Well, you know what? I had problems screwing in the bottom to the Wurlitzer. They never
had a
went in the
Wurlitzer.
right. I had a Wurlitzer for a while.
Wurlitzers were no good.
Well, Wurlitzers, I love the sound of the Wurlitzer, but this is all before, we had keyboards. That was such a groundbreaking thing.
I know, my Fender Rhodes weighed 110 pounds.
Yeah.
I had it, because I had the
suitcase one?
Yeah.
Did you have any issues? You have to turn it over and screw the legs in, or was that all right?
That was it.
That right there
and
was.
Because they went inside, they went in a funny way. They didn't.
That was the problem with the Wurlitzer. They would splay in a certain way. All right. But luckily, even though I love electric piano, I was happy to be acoustic. I used to have to tune the spinet that laid on its back but the way that the little apartment piano worked was that it only had 2 strings for its biggest part, and I had a whole piano tuning kit, and I traveled
know, you
with
see
it.
people playing now, they have all these instruments playing in backgrounds and digital stuff, but I don't want to run out of time, so let's get to some of this stuff before we go in. I want to get into your teaching stuff because that's important. Let's just go through these CDs here.
I just want to throw in one funny thing. As time went by, I'm now a Casio piano endorsed artist, and I still use mostly acoustic piano sounds, even though I have everything at my disposal.
Me too. I know. Okay, let's go through these things. What is this? What are we looking at?
All right. So the first recorded album here was with producer Richard Adler.
Who's been on this show, by the way.
That's so cool. You need to tell him I said hello if you.
I haven't seen him since he was on the show.
Was it recent?
No, I seen. No, this is a long time ago.
Well, he specializes in live playing acoustic sounds. So this is this is a band with live drums, live bass, live stuff, great organ, great keyboards. Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the next one.
All right, they took a single from that, and it was plucked to be on this compilation called The United State of Americana, which is kind of a collector's item now. They went on to have a lot of United State of Americanas. This was volume 1, and they took my song Stampede.
Various artists
Yes.
CD. Okay, and what we got here?
Okay, turn it sideways. Yeah, we go. Okay.
Knowing Me.
Knowing Me. This is an album.
Is there a dog on the back of this thing?
Yeah, because this is a person on a beach, and we divided the photograph in half.
Who's the dog? I love dogs.
So this is Venice Beach in L.A.
I used to live there.
Yeah.
Is that you on the front?
That's me on the front.
You have blonde hair.
Yeah, it changes.
Oh.
Produced with Jerry Kimbrough, co-written and produced with Jerry Kimbrough, very orchestral, not a particularly rocky album. This is more textural and symphonic. It has some important songs about family and passage of life.
Okay. That's it.
Great. This is
it's another
what's
one.
next? Silent Night. Okay, Silent Night is a digital single.
I heard this one on
Yeah,
YouTube
this
or
is a
something.
very
Or SoundCloud or something.
yeah. This is available. All of these, by the way, are all distributed on iTunes and Apple Music and everywhere else. But my version of Silent Night is gentle and angelic, and a little bit quirky because it's got lots of loops in it, and it was fun. I co-produced that with a great engineer and sax player named Michael Herman.
Yeah, I've heard that one.
Okay.
What we got here?
So this is Starfish, which is really just an EP. It's 3 songs. Starfish comes from one of the lyrics, and this is.
I heard that song too.
This album is with producer and engineer Bruce Dees, who's like the greatest Kurzweil piano sound in the world, and very simple production, very elemental singer-songwriter. 2 versions of one song, 1 version of another. The one there's 2 versions of on here, 1 piano, 1 acoustic guitar. Huge internet hit on YouTube. It's called Hands on the Wheel.
Okay, and what's this one? Okay,
this is called Webs. And this is the most recent recording. This is written, recorded, and co-produced with famous artist Walter Egan, known for Magnet and Steel from the 70s. And he and I are a current writing and production team. And we just released this several months ago.
Okay.
And they're all available everywhere.
But they're available on the internet?
They're all available.
Like for downloads and all that stuff?
They're all available for downloads on every digital outlet.
How do you get to your download thing? Beth Sass CD Baby or what do you do?
No, you can just go to, they're available on
iTunes?
iTunes, Apple Music.
Just go to your name, Beth Sass?
That's it, yeah. Just look for me as an artist. You can also go to my website, which is www.bethsassmusic.wordpress.com. That's kind of a mouthful. But if you Google me, there's pages and pages of links.
We'll put it on the screen, if it was something on the screen, something like that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so let's get to your teaching stuff.
Yes.
Now that's...
I'm looking at my watch, yes.
Okay, so tell me about how you get into this teaching stuff, and actually you're very passionate about it, so tell me about it.
Yeah.
What do you like teaching, voice or piano, or what do you like teaching?
Where do I begin? First of all, I started teaching music when my daughter was in either preschool and then elementary school and then middle school and then high school. Everything in my life worked on the teaching schedule because it matched my child. I have now an 18-year-old. So originally I taught music because it fit in a schedule in a group setting in preschool. And I found out pretty quickly that it was easy for me to pick up on and focus on bringing out creative problem solving in children.
What are the ages of your students?
Right now, right now I have age 4 to age 70. And I've had older than that. I even have a concert at World Music where I currently house my teaching practice next week. And there's about 30 people in it in age 4 to age 70.
Well, this World Music is like a school or something. It's a music store, but it has a school in the back on the side or something.
Yes, and we all have, we have independent teachers there that work there. And what we're able to do is basically cross-train, almost like in fitness. That's how I see music training. So somebody comes to me and they want to sing, and I explain to the families that they will eventually need to play the piano or the guitar. They'll have to accompany themselves in order to increase their musical knowledge. So I believe in getting a child of any age, a student of any age, comfortable with what they came to do, but I really want to support their overall musical literacy. So in a concert that's coming up that I'm doing, for instance, I have singers, I have piano players, and then I have singers who are now playing piano, and I have piano players that are now singing.
You have the concerts at World Music?
Yes, I do. I do.
In that room back there?
I do. There's a large concert venue there. So I find it really I'm passionate about setting a person's creative vision free in an educational setting. And I have a lot of tools. I have a lot of observational skills, I guess, as a songwriter. I have a lot of understanding of what it's like to be sort of an introvert who needs to express themselves that way. I have a lot of students where the family's in the room with me because I want them to explain, I want them to watch me explain their child to themselves. And then I want them to carry through with that at home. That's a little bit of a Suzuki-ish principle that I've adopted. And
a little bit of a who?
Suzuki, do you know the Suzuki method of, it's a brand name. It's just that I say Suzuki-ish, Suzuki style. I can't even sum it up, but it's a philosophy that believes that the family is involved in the children's education. That's one aspect of it that I use, and it's a great journey.
What's the most satisfying thing you get as a teacher?
That's an interesting question. The most satisfying thing that happens as a teacher is when you, as a teacher, hold a vision of the child a little bit bigger. I say child, but it's anybody, because I have like I said, a lot of adult students. When I see the person a little bit bigger and a little bit more experienced and a little wiser and a little bit more of a risk taker than they currently are, I hold on to that almost like a midwife or so, and then they step into that role, and I sit back and I remember predicting that. And then I let them glide for a little while, and then I see their next step. And then I make sure that, they confront it.
When you were learning, though, didn't you learn a lot of this stuff on your own? I just like make mistakes and just kind of like figure it out.
Okay,
somehow.
I didn't have that. Yes, I didn't have that. However, when I had individual moments, it was because a particular teacher felt that about me. So while I didn't have that on a continual basis, if I were to say what kept me going and kept me moving, because of course I went through millions of teachers, it would be because I believe that they sporadically provided that for me.
We had an interesting conversation on a Tuesday breakfast thing, right?
Yes.
Where we said, you said you can teach songwriting.
Oh, right.
Right? And I said, and I was telling you can teach the craft, and you said you can teach, and I said, but you can't teach content. And somebody, but you said you can't teach content.
Absolutely, you can teach content.
Now, that was, what you said was good. Do you remember what you said about how you teach the content?
Of course I do.
Something about getting somebody's diary or something like that?
Two things.
Okay.
Two things.
Let me just explain.
Yeah.
I find that when I listen to songs, they're usually crafted right, but when you get done with them, it's like watching a movie that didn't have any substance to it.
It doesn't stay, right.
So how do you teach somebody to get something to get deep in their soul or whatever?
Well, first of all, I studied lyric writing. You know, one of the times that I was here, I was lucky enough to mentor myself with the great Don Frimmer, who has passed, and the great John Gerard. These are both Nashville Music Row lyricists who've passed. And there's nothing like working with somebody who gets it so I'm a good student of it. Let's put it that way. That's how we started. I was like, I know how I was, and then I know what I did afterwards, after working with somebody that was good at that. So number one, I got it. I'd like to think that I got it. So what happens is you have to teach somebody that all their thoughts are not equally valuable, and you have to teach value. You have to teach, like if you're a script writer or a playwright or an author, you have to picture whatever the equivalent is of, you know, this would be a good photo, a good scene, a good bullseye, a good target. And how you teach that is you start with people not doing it and just spewing out all their thoughts, whether they're a teenager or a 9-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 70-year-old, doesn't make a difference. Your journal is your rough draft of everything that you think. And you begin to learn how to go through it with a highlighter, literally, and go back and look at the thoughts that might be more, lend themselves more to depth. You begin to feel that. One way that you check for it before you write a song that I was taught is, I'm going to use this, pretend this was your topic, is to teach somebody to walk around the topic 360 degrees. Do I want to say it from here? First person, second person, third person, whatever, past, present, future. Do I want to say it from here? How do I want to say it? Like I might come up with a word that I think is really interesting. And I have to defend it, much like a trial. or a jury. I defend it to myself. I defend it with my co-writer. And if you do enough culling and investigating of your topic and your title, your lyrics, your thoughts, if you do some activities based on how old you are would be how strict you were about it, then at the end you're going to get more of that feeling that you're looking for, which is it sticks with you.
Right.
I mean, I can give you 900
Mean
million
something.
examples. Well, the bottom line is you do the work going in. So I'm hashing something out with myself or with a co-writer a long time before I can. The music, I saw a bumper sticker once that said, "Music is the easy part." It is the easy. Music is the easy part.
To some people.
Yeah. Lyrics are the difficult part.
I once told that to somebody, the same thing about
Yeah.
the lyrics, and he said no, because he was a musician and he put his heart and soul into the music.
Right.
So it was a lot of. I said, oh yeah, I guess you could do that too. So you got to be
Well,
kind of
you
open.
have to, no, you have to do that music. You have to
Right.
yeah, it goes without saying that you
But
do
you got to
that.
kind of be open-minded about everything, because you never know what's going to work.
Exactly. That's the challenge. You have to allow yourself, but wouldn't that be true for any creative thing that you're working on? Any piece of work. You would have to allow yourself to take a train inside of it and wander around and make sure that you're hitting the bases you wanted to hit.
So we're almost out of time, but what are you most proud of of the work that you've done?
About everything?
The song, yeah. Well, I was thinking about song-wise, but.
Oh. Okay, so I'm happy whenever I capture something that I thought was pretty obscure, but I went for it anyway. And then I go to perform it as an artist, and I'm like, yes, I meant it, I still mean it, I'm still sharing it, and the audience is still getting it, and that's so satisfying. It's not more or less satisfying, it's just the goal. I want that point with every song. Isn't that going to make a great artist versus like a flash in the pan, or versus somebody that just doesn't rivet you as a human being or as an artist? So I have those kind of moments whenever I perform, because I injected that stuff into the songwriting to begin with. And I'm grateful for teaching, because it helps pay, literally, my life. It supports me while I continue to share my music.
You probably
with everybody.
learn something while you're teaching too.
Of course, yeah. Well, you learn that there's always more to learn.
Okay. Anyway, we got to get going. My name is Jesse Goldberg, and this is, our guest is Beth Sass, and she teaches over at World Music in Bellevue, one of the independent teachers there.
Yeah.
Right, and we'll be back next week with another edition of the show.